In this first part of the tutorial, I'm going to go over the workflow used to generate a tubular waffle structure. A tubular waffle structure is a waffle structure that's built from a form that has both an exterior shell and an interior shell. Okay, it allows you to build open waffle forms that are tubular in nature. And one of the beautiful things about waffle scripts and these types of geometries is that you can build forms that have both an exterior expression and an interior expression. They can be built through solids of revolution. They can be built using the loft tool, or they can be used building a combination of forms. This form was built by creating a loft using these control curves to generate my interior form. And once generated, I then use the bottom curves, the curve at the bottom here and at the top here, with a profile to do a sweep to rail, which helped to yield my external contour. Now, the first step into generating your waffle structure is to generate both the interior and exterior cross-section profiles. And as you know, the way that we go about doing that is that we can use our contour command and our section command. I'm going to use the contour command to generate the vertical ribs, and I'm going to use the section command to generate the radial ribs, because those have to be done more intuitively. So I'm going to select my object, which has already been joined, and I'll come up to my command line and I'll type in contour. Okay, and I have my contour object, and I'm going to draw my contour line here, my contour line there, and my sections are at 1 inch. And there I have my contour sections. I'm going to create a new layer, and I'm going to call that layer contours. And I'm going to paint that layer. For right now, I'm going to paint it dark green. Okay. And those are my contours, and I'm going to make them my V underscore contours. Turn off my caps lock. There we go. And so now if I go to my perspective window and I turn off, make this my active layer, and oops, let me go back here. I forgot to move my curves, but that's really easy. I can select my object, curves, and then I can just come down here and change the object layer in there where I want to be. And there you can see my curves, and also note that the curves are grouped because of the way that I passed the contour command. Okay, and so let me go back to this surface here, and I'm going to turn off my contours because I don't need to see them. I'm going to work with my surface. And in this case, I want to select my object, and I'm going to execute the bounding box command. This is going to help me generate my radial curves. And I have a bounding box that now surrounds my object. And I'm going to go now to my top window, because I'm going to use my top window to generate my radial curves. And let's go Control F1 to the top here, and I'm going to use my section command, and let me create a new layer. I'm going to call these R, or contours, for radial contours. Okay, and now I'm going to generate my radial contours. And the way that I'm going to do that, I'm going to use my section command. Okay, and I'm going to start my section, and this is where the snaps come in good. My end snap right here, it snaps to that end, snaps to this end. Note that my line went through the center, which is what I want. That's very important. You want to get that. And you can continue to work. You can come in this way. And I'm going to start outside my box so that I slice completely through my object, like so. And then I'm going to come over here and slice through that way. And now hit return, and I'm going to change the object layer, and I'll paint these orange for right now. Okay, and now if I go Control F4 to get back to my perspective window, I have my vertical contours and their closed curves. At this point, I can turn off my object because I no longer need them, and I can select my contours, and then I can go to my surfaces because I want to now convert those to planes. Curve from objects, planar curves. It generates the planar curves for my vertical elements. Okay, and let me create a new layer here, and I'm going to move this down to the bottom because this is going to be used to store my curves. Type in here curves underscore vertical, and I'm going to copy my vertical curves to that layer. Okay, and so now if I go back to this layer and I can turn those off, I have just my planar surfaces, which are going to become important. And then let's go to my go to this layer to bring up my curves in this direction. Okay, I locked my other curves so I can just select these now, and now I can go to my surfaces, planar curves. That generates those planar curves. I'm going to create a new layer. I'm going to call these curves, let's go horizontal, and I'm going to change that object layer, go back up to my vertical layer, and make those invisible. Change the object layer. And I'll make those invisible. And now I have my surfaces, okay, in both directions. And I have basically, these are going to be the curves that I use to generate my ribs, okay. And I want to change the colors just to make this workflow a little better. I'm going to come over here, change this color to blue, okay, and I'm going to come over to my orange layer, and I'm going to change those to a deep maroon color, and so I have that sort of look. Okay, now the final step in this part of the preparation will be to generate my intersection curves, because my intersection curves are going to be used to drive my piping operations, which I'll use to create my intersections for my ribs. But this is the basic model that I'll be using, and this is what my final object will look like with its thickness. But the steps for generating the intersection curves is very straightforward. What you do will select everything, because you want to select both your horizontal and vertical curves, and you want to come up to curves to get it running again. And it takes a couple moments to calculate, because it's calculating the intersections of all of these curves, and that becomes very important. That's the structure upon which we are going to build all of our pipes. Okay, and there goes our intersection curves. Now let's create a layer. We're going to put those on their own layer, and I want to make those magenta so that they pop a little bit. And I'll do my I'll change the object layer so that those are now there and they're magenta. Okay, and this is our model. We have our vertical ribs here. We have our radial ribs going around, and we have our intersection curves. And those will be all the elements that we'll need in order to build our waffle structure. Okay, and we're going to stop at this moment, and in our next tutorial we're going to talk about how to create the pipes, the intersection pipes for our waffle structures.